welcome back. So today we're going to do some paintings, some little bitty paintings, because in a couple of days I am having another tea with my mom, and we're doing this whole big fall tea thing, and I thought it would be fun if I made some place cards for all of the ladies that are coming. So I'm doing 9 little mini paintings, and on each of them I will write everybody's names, or each person's names, so that everyone will have a little painting that they can take home with them at the end of the day, and a cute little painting to mark their spot at the table. So sit back, relax, and let's get started on 9 teeny tiny paintings. So when I started these, I had traced out the designs that I wanted, and I had sketched up some notes of what colors I wanted and what styles I wanted, and my initial idea was that I was going to have them all be completely different little paintings, and that they wouldn't really have anything in common other than they were all going to be very fall autumn color schemes. And I very quickly changed my mind when I put a little too much of one color on my paint palette. So I decided that what I would do instead was that I would kind of do, because I already had 3 different themes for what I was doing for the paintings, I would try to stick with kind of 3 different color schemes as well, and use as much of this oops amount of paint on my palette as I could. And I think that actually turned out really well, and I think that the paintings turned out a lot more cohesive by me doing that, because I ended up with a lot more of the same colors across all 9 paintings, and I think that just worked really well for what I was going for. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was tricky because again, I am very new to using gouache, and while I am loving it and it is very quickly becoming one of my favorite things to work with, it is still very much of a challenge, and trying to do 9 paintings at once is never easy, but it was a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed playing with more of the watercolor effects, because of course gouache is watercolor, and I haven't painted with regular watercolor in I don't even know how long. I think I must have been a child the last time I did it, and I'm wondering now if I want to get some watercolors just as a thing to play with, maybe as a thing to blend with my gouache. It's an option at the very least. But I had a lot of fun doing this. Yeah, so I have 3 different themes. The top row on my paper is these little mountain scenes. The middle row is forest trees. And the bottom row, I was trying to focus more on the sky, so I was doing more like autumn clouds and sunsets and sunrises. And I wanted to stick with this very painterly style, which is not my normal style. My normal style is a lot more clean line. But I wanted it to be very painterly because I think that that works better with things like gouache and watercolor. And I wanted to stay true to the medium I was using, rather than force the medium to do something that it didn't really want to do. And then in some cases like this one, I started out with this idea of I'm going to do it crooked and it's going to look really cool, and then I did part of it and realized that I didn't want it to look cool. I wanted it to look soft and painterly, and I ended up having to add a ton of water to this one to blend out the color and get it to look the way that I wanted it to look. I think one of the hardest parts of doing this, and this wasn't what I expected, the hardest part was that I kept putting my hand in wet paint and then having to hold the brush a way that I'm not used to, because I didn't want to set my hand in wet paint again. Which again, I think that worked really well with the style that I was going for, because I did want that very painterly style I did want it to look a little bit more like traditional watercolor. So in some ways I think that that was actually a blessing in disguise, but boy, that was hard in the moment. I do not regret it at all. I think it was a really good choice to do that. But it was tricky, and it's not a thing that I'm used to at all. I had oodles of different colors out, and I was just kind of playing and seeing what colors would go with what and what styles went best where, just to try to figure out how I wanted this laid out and figure out what ones were going to go with what color scheme. Obviously, the 3 mountain ones were going to have to be the exact same color scheme because I had a set of colors that I wanted to use for the mountains specifically. And the others I was just kind of, well, you can do whatever with them and play with it and have fun and use whatever colors you want. So I actually ended up with, instead of just doing the 3 rows as the 3 themes, I have, as you can see, the top row is the mountains, and then that middle row I have 2 that are orange and 1 that's blue, and the bottom row I have 2 that's blue and 1 that's orange. And I'm not entirely sure how that happened. I remember it happening in the moment, but I don't really remember. I think there was a reason why I made that decision, but I do not recall what that was anymore. I'm not sorry about it. I actually really like how these all turned out, and I think that that was a wise decision to do it this way. Yeah, it was a very tricky thing to do, and if you are a painter, I think it's something that you should try because it's really fun. It is very much of a challenge. And I had heard from somebody at a paint class that I did that you should try flipping your canvas over. So it's something that I've been doing more and more lately. Even though this top part I knew was going to be easier if I flipped it anyway, because the mountains are, for some reason, a lot easier for me if I paint them upside down. So I knew this was going to be easier for me this way, but it was still kind of interesting to look at the whole thing upside down and see what I liked and see what I didn't like and see what I might need to tweak. And then the fun thing with gouache is that a lot of the things that I needed to tweak, I could just add water to, and then it looked fine. So it was a very fun experience, a very rewarding experience, and I highly, highly recommend it if you haven't done any of those sort of like challenge videos where you try to paint multiple things at once. This is a really fun one to do because you don't have to do it in a specific amount of time. You don't have to like overly challenge yourself. You don't even need multiple canvases. You can just do what I did. Trace the smallest canvas you have 9 times on the biggest piece of paper you can find. Sketch out some ideas and then take your time and paint and see where it goes. I think all in all this project took me a couple of hours to finish painting, I think. And it was just so much fun. I really got lost in the process, and I was having such a good time sitting there and painting all of these designs and trying to figure out the placement of all of the features, knowing that I needed to write all of the ladies' names, or each of the ladies' names, on each of the place cards. Because I had thought of that when I was sketching out my designs, but then I did not remember to continue thinking about that when I first started painting. So some of the mountains, I did them and then I was like, oh, I was gonna put the person's name in the mountain, and I definitely don't have a white pen. Well, oh well. Because I was not about to try doing that with a paintbrush. Absolutely no way would my paintbrush skills be good in that situation. They would, in fact, be bad. I like doing a lot of the intricate things with paint, but I am not super skilled at doing them yet. It's a thing that I'm working on. you have any online classes that you would recommend for learning such things, please let me know. Otherwise, I will continue to do so through trial and error, which I find is a very good way to learn how to paint anyway. So, at this point, I'm getting pretty close to the end of my design. I know that I still need to do the trees in the middle row, and at this point I'm getting really frustrated and wishing that I had done the trees on the bottom row instead of in the middle row, because it's gonna be hard to get to them because there's wet paint everywhere. And I apologize for this section. I had to get a little bit closer to the paper to be able to see what I was doing, and that just kind of meant that I blocked the shot. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was so in the zone that here's a lovely view of my earrings. Just beautiful, beautiful earrings. While I get more paint on the back of my hand. I think at the end of this I had every single color on the back of my right hand. I was highly amused. So then these bottom three, I am doing grasses. And my original thought was to do these in the same like goldy tones to make it look a little bit more fall. But I think that the greens actually work a little bit better because it's a very soft green. It's not a vibrant, this plant is still very much alive green. It's kind of a, this plant is nearing the end of its prime green. It's a weird way of wording it, but I think you know what I mean. And I think that that just worked really well to convey that this is a fall theme without having to kind of go with a single color on these three paintings that are very orange already. I didn't think the grass would show up on them at all if I did it in kind of that goldy brown. So it really had to be green for it to make sense. And though I think that in some ways it does look a little bit summery, I think that it actually worked really well, and I don't think it looked too summery. I think they turned out really nice, and they turned out close enough to being fall colors, especially with the skies being so fall themed, that I think it worked really well. Of course, I'm always down for y'all's opinions, so if there's any that you love, please let me know in the comments. Same if you hate them. My least favorite, for the record, is the middle one on the bottom row. We actually had a lady cancel at the last minute, so I don't think I'm going to be using that one. Again, just really wanted to block the shot so you can't see what I'm doing. But I got out this nice deep red, and I'm doing that for the leaves for these middle two. And these two I think are going to be a big hit. I love these colors. I really didn't think of this until after I'd painted them, but these are the same colors as the tablecloth we're using. So I'm going to have to find a way to not have them disappear into the background. I don't really know how I'm going to do that. Maybe I'll set them on the plates. I don't know. We'll see. This one that I'm working on here, this one ended up being my favorite, so I think I'm gonna give this one to my sister-in-law because I think she's really gonna like this style. And again, I had to get really close to the painting to do this, so I apologize if you can't really see what I'm doing. But basically, I did treetops all the way around, so you know those like horror movies that have you like looking up through the dying trees and it's like super creepy? I wanted to do that, but make it cute and pretty. And I think I did a really good job because I love this one. So, I love how these turned out. finished product. 9 little mini paintings. I'm so excited. They turned out much better than I thought they were going to. Gouache is a thing that I'm still pretty new at, so it's still kind of a challenge to get the colors to do exactly what I want them to do. Clearly I haven't written the names on these yet. I haven't decided which name is going on which one, so that'll take some time. But super happy with how these turned out, and I have an idea. I think that I'm going to get some little mini canvases like this, and I am going to start using these as studies for bigger pieces and paint like little mini paintings like this, like about this size, because I like the size of these. It's a nice size, right? It's a good size. So like that size, maybe like little 4x4 squares or something like that, and use those as color studies for bigger pieces that I want to do, so that I can kind of get an idea of what paint colors I want to do and what color schemes I want to do for bigger pieces, but I wouldn't have to use a ton of paint to kind of get my ideas going. Those, when I get my website set up, will be one of the less expensive items that I have on my website, since they are just color studies, and I think that'll be really fun. So if you guys do like my art and you like my art style, when I get set up, I will make sure this is a thing, because I love it, and I think this is a really cute and really fun way for me to get more painting time without it being super stressful, and with it being in a way that I think is super approachable for lots and lots of people. And I know a lot of my friends are going to love these, so super excited. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.